it. Go. All right, everybody. As you can see, we're having our usual internet issues. Maybe something that we solve early next year, but welcome everybody, and we're going to try to get everything going good. Let me get the slideshow started. So, people at home, can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you see anything? Can you hear me at home? All right.
Yes, and I see the
So
website.
tonight we're going to talk business. We have some big. What was that? All right, this is why everybody needs to come in person. It's more fun that way too. So, anyways, we got a little bit of business to talk about. We've got some big news. We've got a lot of events we're going to talk about. Mary Jo Cox is here, and she is going to do her presentation on bear photography. Then we're going to do our photo challenge on vanishing points. And we've actually have a video. Mike Robertson is our judge tonight, but he ended up having to work tonight. So he actually recorded his critiques. So hopefully we'll be able to watch it. I know the people here will be able to watch it. Hopefully the people at home will be able to watch it. So real quick with the business, club dues, $20 for individuals, $30 for a family. All the dues go to help support the club, pay for the room, pay for equipment. And if you are a paid member, you get extra benefits like being able to go on club trips, workshops, things like that. Club picnic just coming up. So definitely, if you want to become a paid member, if you're not already, just go to our website, North Georgia Photography Club.com, and you can pay there. So now we'll get to the business part. We've been talking all year about the need to get new officers, and we have them. We have a transition team in place. We have Travis Rhodes and Danielle McCann. Hopefully, Danielle is connected on Zoom, but Travis is here. Come on up. Travis is going to be the new president. So he wanted to talk to people for a few minutes, talk about what's coming.
So yeah, with everything that's going on with the club, I've decided I'll step up and give Mike the break he so well deserves. He's been doing this for a long time, and I think it's going to be good for him to be able to step back and just be a club member and not have to be tasked with doing all of the things that the president does. I'm not going to come in and make wholesale changes, but I do want to try to do some things to make the club give a little fresh breath to things. I'm already looking at some new speakers for next year. We are considering a change of location. We're going to talk to membership about that. We're already in the planning stage of maybe rolling out a new software that tracks all of our membership, all of our field trips, and all of that stuff. The committee is working through that. I think we have some exciting things coming, and I hope that everyone will be on board with it and enjoy things that we're bringing forward. It's gonna take some time. It's gonna take a little bit of transition. But I've been the vice president of the Roswell Photographic Society. I was on the board with GNPA. So being kind of in the leadership role of a photography club, I think I can handle that. My workload is a lot less than it used to be. I've quit doing my commercial photography, so now I can kind of focus on fun things like this. And I'm looking forward to being a more active part of the club and trying to lead the club in the new direction. So
we've got a lot of plans. We had a good planning meeting. We've had a couple of planning meetings the last couple of weeks, and I think you're going to be very happy. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited to be able to sit at one of the tables coming January
and not have to deal with the technology.
That's right. That's almost the hardest part. All right, and then Danielle, who hopefully is on tonight, is able to get onto Zoom. She is either going to be the treasurer or the secretary or a little bit of both. So that's still in the planning. And then Dick and I are going to help the transition team. We're not going to just run away, and so we're all going to work together.
I'm here, Mike.
So let's here. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's Danielle saying she's here.
Yes, I'm here.
So, Danielle, do you want to tell real quick what the background is?
Well, I am a
Or
retired,
not?
I'm here. I think there's a delay, but I'm a retired business owner, so I can kind of help out with the business end of it and the administrative end of it. So I'm retired, so I have plenty of time to help out. So I'm just willing to do whatever's needed.
All right. And she's been helping us this year too. She's gotten a lot of our judges that we've had this year and a couple of our speakers, and we've had judges that turned into speakers. So we definitely appreciate your help, Danielle. So let's talk about field trips. We have a bunch of them to end the year, 2 months, and I think we got 6 trips coming up, plus our picnic. So I'll introduce Rick Olson to talk about all of these. I guess I'll talk about mine first. The train chase on October 19th, our annual train chase. We chased the steam train from Chattanooga to Centerville, Georgia, and back. Lots of fun. Challenge is getting in front of the train, getting the picture, getting back in your car, getting in front of the train again. Um, I'm still working on the route. We had some new places we went last year. So just depending upon how many people are going, that will determine which sites we're going to visit. And for those who've been on this trip before or seen our pictures from last year, Gary, who has the red Model, I've already talked to him about um, having his truck in some of our pictures. So hopefully he'll be available on the 19th. Rick is going to go ahead and send out the invitation, I think, next week. So watch for that and sign up for that. Now, Rick's turn.
Hello, everybody. So coming up this weekend is Japan Fest. The free tickets that we had for Japan Fest are used. You can still sign up and join us if you wish. Pat Fahey has already sent out, our president from CPS has already sent out to us the information, those of us who signed up already, about where to meet and all that stuff. But if you want to join it, you can still do it. It's just you'll have to pay for it. Japan Fest is $16 for seniors, $20 for everyone else, $5 to park regardless. And basically, it's a gigantic thing with all sorts of Japanese cultural events going on concurrently. So what we do is, as a photography club, CPS, and now we've got some folks from North Georgia too, we run around, we'll have an assignment, and there'll be certain events that each one of us is responsible for photographing. When it's all done, we share those photographs back with the planners for Japan Fest, and they use to help promote their event in future years. I think this is about the third year for it. Quickly, October, we've got Chalktoberfest on the 12th and 13th. That's in downtown Marietta. Pat Fahey also runs that one. I don't think I've sent out the invitation for that yet. And then Mike's already talked about the train chase, and I'll be sending that invitation out probably tomorrow, actually, as well as for the picnic. Kevin, I'll be sending that invitation out tomorrow as well. Thanks for sending me that info. November, a couple of things going on. November 2nd, Saturday, November 2nd. Already about 27 people have signed up for this, which is great. So we've got a good turnout for the Fall Colors trip, which will be at Berry College. And it'll sort of serve a secondary purpose of letting us prepare and sort of scope out the lay of the land a little bit for when we come back a week later to do the NG3C shootout. And I'm going to comment about the shootout, and I'm going to ask Travis and Mike to pile on a little bit too, because I know they've both been through them. For my part, what I would say about the shootout is
This talk too, Dick.
this is one of the most fun things that ever happens. It's all about photographers and photography. It only happens once a year, except it didn't happen in 2020 or 21 And for some reason, they couldn't get it together last year. But we've got one coming up this year, November 9. You should have about 10 different camera clubs from Georgia, one from Tennessee, I think, all, colliding in the campus of Berry College, and about 200 people and 5 random subjects that'll be thrown out at it at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hop in your car, go find those subjects, get your best photos, come back, do your edits. And we'll have a lot of instruction for those who sign up for it about how we're going to do it for our club. But it's pretty cool. Those photos get submitted. Everybody's done with getting their photos edited and turned in by about 12:30. And at that point, folks in the club are going to do a job of going through all the photos we've collected and picking the best ones. We'll start their job. By 2 o'clock, they've got to turn in 10 photos for each of the 5 topics, total of 50 for North Georgia will be turned into the judges for NG3C. It's a little rigid. There's rules, some things you just have to do right, which some of us artistic types aren't really used to a lot of that sort of regimentation, but it's worth the effort because at the end of the day, it's so much fun. I want to make one comment about because a lot of people think, well, I'm not good enough to do that. I don't really photograph like Travis's pictures. I've seen those and Dick's pictures, and my stuff isn't that good. You have to understand with the shootout, it is not about wall art. Most of the photos you come away with the shootout are not going to be wall art. The whole key is finding something unique that fits the description of that topic. Those are the photographs that win. Get something a little different that fits the topic. I remember Mark Chandler was president of CPS one year and he won first place for round. He had a close-up photograph of one of those round faucets on the outside of a building. It happened to be painted blue. The stupid thing won first place. I mean, you don't know what's going to win, but you got to find something a little different, something a little off the wall. And then I'll skip ahead very briefly. Sloss Furnace. We were supposed to do a trip to Sloss Furnace back in February. It got theoretically rained out. It turns out it didn't rain that day, but we didn't know any better, and it's a long drive. So we stayed home, but we decided to put that back on the calendar. So November 23rd, that'll be our last field trip of the year, going to Sloss Furnace. So much fun photographing those big hulking chunks of steel and pipes and colors and rust and textures and all kinds of cool stuff there. So it's a fun trip. This club hasn't done that since about 2018.
2020 was it was the last club trip or the next to last club trip before COVID.
Okay. So with that, more to say about the shootouts?
So I don't have much to say other than it's a lot of fun. You got to watch your time so you get your pictures turned in because they originate. If you're 1 minute late turning in your images, you're out. If you use the wrong file name, they have a nomenclature they want you to use. If you use it wrong, you're out. I think I used the wrong file name for my own pictures one year, so I don't think mine ever got judged that year. But the 2 years that the club has participated, we've had people win. One thing I don't think Rick said is that there's individual winners and then club winners. So for those 5 categories, they select first through 10th place. So they all get ribbons. I think first place may get a cash prize. I don't remember. And then each club gets points by their finishes. So then there's, in addition to the individual winners, you have an overall winner. And my take from it, and participating, I've actually participated in 3 of these. I've had fun every time. It doesn't matter if you win. It's the being around other photographers, challenging yourself to find things that you just never know what it's going to be. And the category could be red, it could be diagonal, it could be automobile, wildlife. You never know what it's going to be. And that's what makes it neat. And we'll kind of explain how the procedure is going to work. We'll assign the people who are attending. These 10 people will have category 1, this group will have category 2, and so on. Of course, you know what it's going to be until that morning. And it's just a lot of fun. Dick, at the last event, he won 2 ribbons or 3 ribbons?
I won 2 ribbons.
Dick won 2 ribbons.
Same picture.
for the same. That's a long story.
Yeah.
Travis, I don't think you won last time, but you won a ribbon the first year we did it. And Travis has also been a judge for them 1 year. So Travis is on our team. He actually contacted me before we even knew they were going to have one. So he's on it. So it's going to, and the club is going to pay for admission. I think it's maybe $15 per person. The club paying for that, so it's not charge you anything other than if you want to buy something to eat or your gas. But
That's right.
and we're providing the flash drives also. So just need to be there. You need to bring your own laptop. We're not providing those. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I don't know if Travis or Dick have anything else they want to add. So oh, and Barry's going to be there also. He's cleaning sensors there. So if you haven't had a chance to get your camera cleaned, that's another reason to come. But not until don't get your camera cleaned until after you're done shooting, unless you have more than one camera. So we want to keep Barry busy in the afternoon. All right, Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about the picnic? So you'll be finding out about the picnic soon, but Kevin Mooney has been working on it.
Yeah, so as Rick said, our annual picnic is coming up at Don Carter State Park on October 6th. You're welcome to come into the park around 11 o'clock. The only thing you'll need to provide would be a parking pass for the state park. Otherwise, the only other thing that I didn't send to Rick would be if anybody wants to bring desserts on there, that would be great. Otherwise, it's going to be catered by El Apache Mexican Restaurant, which is one of my favorite Mexican restaurants in Gainesville. So looking forward to seeing y'all there, and look out for Rick's email tomorrow with a reminder.
And I know from past experience, most of the club members like Mexican food.
Yes.
So, so all right. So we'll go ahead and start our presentation. Mary Jo Cox with Fair Photography. Let's see, we got something in chat. Let's see here. Brian, yeah, you could come to the shootout. You could even shoot. You just won't be able to turn anything in. But you could team. Uh, uh, since you will be able to turn anything in. All right, let's get to Mary Jo's presentation. Share screen. Yeah, that's yours. Click the button or right there. Yeah, the arrows should work too. Yeah. All right.
We'll use arrows.
All right.
Okay.
Let me go sit down.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for having me here. I'm Mary Jo Cox, and obviously my specialty is bears. That's my favorite thing to photograph. I do all wildlife, but I spend a lot of time around bears. So I'm going to talk a little bit about bears, being around them, what it's like, and trying to read bears, that kind of thing, what I look for when I'm photographing, and then kind of where my photography is going now with all of my hundreds of thousands of bear shots. So, this is just a sample of a couple of little cubs that were up in the Katmai area in Lake Clark. Excuse me, this is, what I'm looking for is the bears with the eyes. So a lot of my photographs are going to have the eyes, and they're going to be lower level at bear level. So a little bit how I got started. I got started with bear photography probably about 10, 15 years ago when my kids were leaving home, going to college. My husband didn't want me to get bored, so he got me a Groupon so I could learn how to use my camera. He said, I want you to do more than just the auto settings. So little did he know it would take me to this level where now I travel all over the world photographing bears. But So I did the Groupon and I took a lot of local classes around Georgia from a lot of different people. And then from there, I did the University of North Georgia classes, their program in photography, then field trips, local and distance, and then obviously a lot of practice out in the field. So some shots, different places of me out in the field, Galapagos, Alaska, Brooks Falls. Challenges of some wildlife photography. For the one thing, when you first get out there, you're around the animals, it can be sensory overload. You get excited, but you have to relax and kind of look past that and enjoy where you are. You get overwhelmed, you try to look at everything, try to photograph everything. You just got to take a deep breath and relax for a minute. You don't always have to travel great distances. You can get wildlife in your yard. I know here up in North Georgia, we get bears, bobcats, fox, etc. You could go to the Smokies a couple hours away if you want bears. You don't have to go all the way across the world just to get bears. So try to learn to see what's in your local area and don't feel overwhelmed. When you're looking to do the photographs, what I look for in bears is I'm always looking for like the patterns. I'm looking for the ears, the eyes, the nose, kind of always watching the face to see what's happening with the animals. This is a little guy, well, a male bear that was just peeking around the tree. And I kind of like how he was just being kind of cute, looking right at me and hanging onto the tree. So there I'm looking for the eyes. This one, probably a lot of you are familiar with the Smokies and the bears up in the trees. This was in early spring. This little cub was up in the tree. Again, another little cub. This was up northern Minnesota. It's a black bear, but it's a cinnamon black bear. And he's peeking around the tree like, hey, what are you doing? But I'm looking, he's got his cute little ears up in his eyes and he's looking right at me, which is really important. Um, it varies. I mean, I have Olympus gear right now. I started with Nikon, went to Canon, and now I have Olympus. But my Olympus, I have it'll go up to 1,000 millimeters. I have the larger lens, but some of these are a lot closer, like 200 millimeters. So it just depends. I mean, I'll get as close as the bear will let me get to them. So this one I was kind of standing up on a platform at a higher level, and he was in the tree, so I was able to shoot right at him. Why am I fascinated with bears? Well, one, I think they're just majestic creatures. They're very powerful looking and they're very curious. And I just love the curiosity when you're standing there or sitting there and they're just fixated on you and just kind of looking at you like, what's happening? They're not an everyday animal. They're not always easy to find. With bears, you pretty much have to know where the food source is in order to find the bears. They have unique characteristics and behaviors when you're around them, whether it's a polar bear, a brown bear, black bear. They're very similar, but they're all different, and there's different precautions you need in every one of those situations. Habitat, I love being in very remote places where there's not a lot of people. Alaska is probably my favorite place when I can get on a plane and get in a remote area and maybe only a couple of us out there with a guide. I just love being out there, hearing the birds, hearing the water, and then obviously seeing these majestic animals out there. I like to educate people about bears. A lot of people are afraid, bear, I gotta run, that kind of thing is going to attack me. Well, no, it probably won't, but I like to educate people about bears. I've been on different bear committees to try to educate people. And I like to protect animals, not just bears, but all animals. Wildlife is really important to me. So I use what I learn and try to educate and get involved in different areas like that. There are personal challenges for me when I'm out doing bears. When I started, I remember being in the field. You guys probably know Charles Glasser, Chaz. He was one of my first mentors, and I did black bear trip with him, and I was shooting everything on auto. And he told me that week I was with him, he's like, you're not shooting on auto, you're going to shoot a manual. And I was going crazy because I'm like, I have to get shots of these bears and they're black. And how do you, expose for a black bear? And so I spent a week with him and he taught me how to actually set my camera and how to photograph, do the exposure manually to get the right exposure with the black bear. Because it can be hard when you got a black subject in a white background more light background. And then once I get the photograph, I feel pretty good because I have like an artistic expression, which you're going to see later, that I use for some of my photographs. This is one of the bears. This is up in Canada. She wasn't real happy with us. We were on a boat. We weren't too far. There was a cub in the water. So she was coming towards us to let us know that we needed to back off. But I like the way it's composed because she's coming down the riverbank with the limb and she's walking out towards us. So I like to show some of the background and the scenery. These guys were up in the Katmai area in Hollow Bay. I was with the guide and I saw the mom and the little koi lay down on the log. And I said, I'm going to get the shot and I want to be in front of him. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going in front of the bear. And he's like, well, you got to stand back. And I was shooting at about 500 millimeters at the time. And because it's a national park, I couldn't get a whole lot closer. But they were pretty tolerable. They stayed there for a while. And I had to wait long enough to try to get the eyes open because they were pretty much sleeping on the log. These are a couple little guys up in Lake Clark, kois. You can tell they're kois because they got the collar, the white collar around necklace, whatever you want to call it around them. Okay, koi is cub of the year, meaning they were born this year. First year, they're not a first year cub, but they're the ones just born in the spring. So these guys would have been born in the February timeframe. This was shot in July. So they're considered koi cub of the year. So these are siblings just playing in the field. This was a black bear up in the Smokies, and I thought it was cute because of the big ears. It's just kind of unique, and yeah. And when a bear stood up, it was like, oh, cool. It stood up, looked at us, and I took the shot. This is a cub, a polar bear cub, obviously. This is up in Alaska, up on the North Shore, up in Katavik, and they're waiting for the ice to freeze. And the little guys, when they're waiting, I mean, you can see there's no ice on the shoreline. This was in October, and they're bored, so they're just playing with all the driftwood, and it's just kind of fun to track them and get their mannerisms and to look at their little paws. So that was kind of fun. And one thing about polar bears, you don't know, they aren't really white. So if people are taking polar bear shots and changing them to white, they're not really white. They have a little yellow hue to them. This is mom and cub up again in Alaska, and she's got a male bear behind her chasing her, and the males will eat the cubs so that they try to mate with the female. So she's watching the male and pulling the cub away. So just kind of watching the mannerisms of mom trying to save her child or her baby was kind of cool. And you see the big paws on these bears. Well, thank you. This is at Brooks Falls. These were siblings. They were playing, waiting, they're bored. Salmon were there, but they were just getting bored. So they started wrestling in the water. And it's always fun to photograph them when they're wrestling. It makes it look like fighting, but they're really not fighting. Bears are fighting, you know it, but these guys are just having a good old time and playing and slapping at each other and rolling around. So I like photographing wet bears. I like the way the fur looks. It was pretty cool. This is a polar bear. This was up in Svalbard. This was done last year actually, and we were on a female bear, and we were on a little boat, and she kind of just looked at us come up to the water, the shore there, right on the edge, and kind of looked at us and smelled like, what are you guys doing? Why are you so close to me? Polar bears are very dangerous bears. So you really can't get on the ground with them without a high-powered rifle. But
It's pretty white, except for the necks and some of the yellow.
right, that's because there's more snow on the ground too. When you don't have as much snow, you're gonna notice some more yellow. But she does have the yellow around the collar and around her feet and things. And you can go in and take that color out, but any polar bear you see in the wild is going to have yellow on it. So this was done up in Hollow Bay, up in Alaska, and the bear was laying down. And I was just kind of watching the bear, waiting for it to do something, because watching bears lay in the grass is pretty boring. But all of a sudden, there was a helicopter behind us that was pulling a plane out that got in trouble and beached itself. But anyway, the noise from the blades got the bear's attention, so the bear sat up, and I just liked how the bear's arms or paws are hanging forward, kind of turned its head like, hey, what's happening? So it was kind of an unusual pose of a bear, which I thought was kind of fun. Mhm. So we've got types of bears. There's 8 types of bears. There's the polar bear, the panda bear, which everybody knows, black and white, the black bear, which is very common, the brown bear, also known as grizzly bears, are the same bear, only grizzlies are inland bears and brown bears are coastal, but they're the same bears. Sloth bear, India. The Asiatic bear is over in the Himalayas in Japan. Sun bear, Asian. The speculated bear is in South America. So there's a variety of bears if you ever want to photograph varieties. These are the sizes. You see the polar bear is the largest, then it goes down to the grizzly, the black bear, and then you get some of the Asian and the bears from I call them from the warmer continents, from India and things. Give you a size, and then you get a rough idea of like a typical person, 5'9", compared to a polar bear standing up, or any other. Again, polar bear, this is up in Kaktovik. One thing was unique about Kaktovik, when you're there, they ask you not to photograph the people or the buildings or the environment. So it was really cool when the bear started walking across the water, and I was on the side where the buildings were in the background. It gives you a little flavor for what it's like up there, but yet we couldn't photograph the actual environment up there. What is it? In Alaska? Yeah, this is in Alaska, up on the North Shore, up near Prudhoe Bay. Yeah, the local people don't want their photographs taken, and they don't want their village exposed. So they said they'll allow you to photograph the polar bears, but they don't want anything else photographed. And they tell you that when you're landing. So they were, you had to respect them. There's only like 300 people in the little village. It's very small, but lots of polar bears. They have people that are around on ATVs shooting off blanks because the polar bears roam through the town. So they try to scare them off, because we were on the boat and you could see them going up the shoreline and towards the town. So it was an amazing place, but the bears are waiting for the ice to freeze, and that's why they're just walking in the water. The freeze up actually happened a week after we were there. So once it freezes, the bears are gone. This is up in Canada, British Columbia. This is a young cub. And what I liked about this one is, the wet fur again and the fall color, and then a little bit of the reflection in the water. But this bear was fishing for salmon in the river. It was kind of cute how he looked up. Black bear, this was out near the Outer Banks, if you're familiar with that area. There's some refuge areas. There's a lot of black bears, big black bears. And I was walking around out there, and this one just kind of came out through the trees. And I liked how it was composed with the trees around it. And then obviously the face and eyes was looking right at me. Here's another little picture of the bears of the world. Panda bear, black bear, Asian bears, etc. Give you a flavor for what kind of what they look like. Sloth bear, sun bear. Probably could have seen some of these guys at a zoo, but in the wild it's a little different. Okay, how do I find bears? There's a number of things. One, I always have a guide with me. Whenever I'm doing bears, I always have a guide. Locations, I always research where the bears are, where the food is. So, and then timing as to, like I talked about the freeze up with the ice in Alaska or Svalbard or even in Churchill. Polar bears, all depends on the ice. A lot of patience when you're out in the field. I've been out in the field with brown bears, and if it's early in the season, if it's June, salmon aren't running yet, so they're eating the grasses, and it's kind of boring. You just kind of watch them grass the field. It's more entertaining when the salmon are running and they're in the water, or like this time of year, September is unbelievable because it's a hyperphagia stage, and the bears have to eat at this point because they're going to get snow and they're going to have to go into hibernation, and the salmon are be gone. And you also have a lot of beautiful, big bears, a lot of fur and fall color. So if you're looking to do brown bears in Alaska, I highly recommend September. Not a lot of people, not a lot of bugs, so it's wonderful.
When the polar bears, when the water freezes over, polar bears go where
They go out on the ice. They go out on the ice and they walk the ice and they go hunting for seals. So, but when it's not frozen, the seals can get away. I mean, the polar bears can swim, but they can't catch the seals. But when it's frozen, the seals come up to get air through the ice, and the polar bear can sense them underneath the ice, and they just dig through the ice. And the power of a polar bear just pouncing on that ice, the seal doesn't have a chance. And then they just pull that seal right up through the ice. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. No, polar bears are the only bears that don't hibernate. The female polar bear will go to den if she's pregnant. Her she'll have the babies again in this, what they consider the springtime, and then they'll come out of the den. But they're the only bear that does not hibernate because they eat when it's frozen. That's the best time for them to eat. When it's warm, they're just kind of wandering the beach, looking for animals or dead whales, that kind of thing. So they're pretty hungry when it's not frozen. Transportation wise, boats, planes, and hiking, depending what kind of bear you're planning to photograph. Here are some of the pictures in the plains, out in the field. The bottom right one is in Svalbard. We're photographing from a little Zodiac to do the polar bears. And that was taken in June. So that gives you an idea what the weather's like in June up in Svalbard. Here's some more. These are all in Alaska. So if you're tracking the brown bears, you're pretty much in waders in the rain, walking around on the rivers, and bears are coming out in all different sides. And when you bring out your lunch is when they usually come out too. So it's a pretty good bet you're going to find one. Black bears, where do we find them? National parks, North Georgia, Minnesota. Those are kind of the easy places to find them. The guides will carry bear spray. Generally, the guides don't have guns or they don't have knives on them. Timing again is a food source. The springtime is when you get the cub coming out of the dens. Summer, you'll get all the fruits and nuts, or the fruits. The fall, you'll have the nuts falling from the tree, and then the hyperphagia when they're running out of food. And you're mainly hiking and a lot of patience because hiking looking for bears takes a lot of time. And it's hard to carry all your gear. But this is a black bear. This is Minnesota. I like to get low. I like when they're looking right at me. And this guy was walking right towards me. I was probably less than 200 millimeters at this point on the ground. And when my guide tells me to stand up, then I get up. But my guide is watching the bear and I'm photographing. So I always have somebody behind me or next to me. This one was up in Cades Cove, female bear. She just went up in the tree. I just like how they're just hanging out there. And then I try to get their paws too. I think it's neat to look at their paws to show what they look like, the bottom part of their paws. A little guy climbing up a tree. They always get spooked, so they run up a tree, so you got to try to track them as they're running up and down those trees. Another one hanging out, like just checking us out, what's happening. This was an adolescent. I call them teenage bears. These are usually your problem children. Doesn't matter what type of bear it is. It's those teenagers that'll kind of push the envelope that come towards you and get a little too close and bear spray goes off or the guide yells at them. But they're usually the problem children. The bigger males tend to stay back. They don't usually cause a lot of problems. The mothers with the young cubs can cause problems if you get too close to the cubs. But teenagers are the ones that really get unnerving. Brown bears, grizzly bears. Where do you find them? National parks, Alaska, British Columbia, Canada. Typically, the guides will always have bear spray. In the national park, they're only allowed to carry bear spray. In Alaska, when you get away from the national parks or up in Canada, they will have handguns that they carry right on their chest. And a lot of them will also have knives that they're carrying where they can grab them right away. No one that I've been with has ever had to use a gun or knife, but we have had to use bear spray. Timing, again, the June is the cubs coming out. Midsummer, you're going to get them eating the grasses in the fields. August, about middle of July till end of September, you're going to get the salmon runs. And towards the end of September, early October, you get the hyperphagia stage. And you will usually be taking a plane out to a location, and you'll either get on a boat and go down a river, or you'll be hiking through the rivers looking for the bears. And a lot of times you're standing in the river photographing while the bears are jumping in and out of the water after salmon. And they're usually easy to find because, you know, the salmon are running. They start at the coast and they work their way inland. So if you have a reputable lodge, the owner or the pilots are going to know exactly where the bears are anytime, and they're going to be able to get you to those bears. This was actually a young brown bear. She was sleeping in the grass, and I was probably from maybe 20 feet from her. She knew we were there. It was just myself and a guide, and she got up and gave us a stink eye. That's not a look you want from a bear. So the guide was yelling there, and I finally yelled there, and then she looked at us like we were crazy and walked away, thankfully. She was pretty big. But I don't know why she got up and gave us a stink eye. This one was up in Kodiak, female bear. I just thought it was beautiful. She was up on a ledge, and you have all the green grasses around, and it was raining, so the color popped pretty good. Thank you. But I just like trying to put sometimes a bear in the environment so you get a feel for what's happening out there. Here's some salmon. This was up in Kodiak. This was actually a very large bear, but they're in the water grabbing the salmon, and these are actually both females, and they had cubs, so they would take the fish, bring it to the cubs, and you hear all the growling and wrestling for the fish with the little cubs. This one was taken this past year. This was a big male bear, and I asked the pilot and the lodge owner, I said, well, why is this one not like that tan creamy color? It's more of a charcoal bear, right? Because most of the brown bears up there are the lighter color. And he said the dominant males in this region in Alaska were that color, that charcoal color. So, or that chocolate brown. And he said that's why most of the bears in that region are dark like this. But this guy was fishing in the river, and then he just laid on the riverbank. So I got down on my stomach, and I wanted to get him really low because I wanted the claws and I wanted to look at him. And I photographed him laying down on my stomach right at his eye level there. Polar bears. Where do you find them? North shore of Alaska, Canada, up on the Hudson Bay. Churchill is the polar bear capital of the world, and Svalbard, which is up in the Arctic, about a 2.5-hour flight from Oslo. And with polar bears, the guides have to have high-powered rifles. With polar bears, if you're walking and polar bear smells you and you don't have a weapon, the bear is just going to follow you. It's not going to chase you. It's just going to follow you, and you're going to keep walking, and you're going to run, and the bear is going to follow you. And when you fall over, then it's over. The bear will not stop. The bear will keep going after you. So polar bears are very dangerous. In Alaska and Svalbard, we're on boats. Canada, you can be on the ground, and you can be in boats up there. So I'm doing.
Said you don't have a weapon.
Mhm.
I mean, the bear is aware of the weapon.
No, but the guide knows what's going on. The guide will shoot towards the bear. Yeah, he's not going to try to kill him initially, but he'll shoot towards him to scare him away. But if you can't scare him away, he's just going to follow you. And they said the bear never tires out. The bear's just going to keep coming, but you'll tire out after walking. So they always have high-powered rifles. But yeah, polar bears are the most dangerous bears. And timing up in Alaska, it's pretty much October before the freeze up, before the ice comes in. And Canada and Svalbard is pretty much summer months as it's thawing because there's so much ice up there. You know, you got to get, as the ice thaws, the bears come in more closer so you can photograph them. Again, once the ice comes in, the bears are gone and there's no way to find them. When we were on the boat up in Svalbard, we were breaking through the ice and then we got into fog and we were sitting there for 2 days in ice, in fog. And if the bear didn't come to the boat, you didn't find it. And we didn't have bears for 2 days because we couldn't see and we couldn't break through the ice. So you want the ice thawing when you're in those regions. And again, transportations, boats, and they can be very difficult because you're waiting on Mother Nature. You know, you plan a trip, you get up there, if the comes in, the bears are gone, and you know, what are you gonna do? There's nothing, you can't control that. There's a polar bear up in Alaska in the morning. You can see a little bit of ice, but the ice had not come in yet, so it was just pacing around. This one was obviously very blustery, foggy. It was very cold that day, and the mom and the cub were just waiting for ice, just hanging out there looking for food. This one got bored and was laying on the shore. I thought it was kind of cute. Safety, you really have to have good guides. You want to trust your guides because they're your backbone. Distance from bears, you know, the guides will give you an idea like that bear doesn't want you close. You need to back up. You can go closer to that one. We're not getting the signals. You learn to read the bears. They'll give you a stink eye. They'll huff at you. False charge is kind of towards them before the charge. I've had some of that too, and those aren't fun. But they'll chomp their teeth. There's a lot of signals you'll get before a bear will charge. And you always want to make noise when you're out around bears. Some people are like, you don't want to talk, you don't scare them. They know you're there. Just talk, just act normal. Don't scream at them, just talk normal. They'll be fine. This is a sloth bear. This was taken in India. These guys are really dangerous. They'll come after you and chase you. This was a cub. You can see the claws on that guy. But the guide, we were in Jeeps, and the guide, he knew I liked bears, and we found the bears, and he's like, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go right in front of the bear." So he put the Jeep, put me right in front of the bear, and so I got the shot of the little guy coming over the log, which I thought was kind of cool. That's what I was going for. But there was a mother and 3 of these guys, but I was only able to capture one. They were moving pretty fast. This was a black bear cub. This was in Minnesota, and again, I got low, and I wanted the cub come through the grasses with the eye contact right on me. Okay, what kind of gear and settings do I use when I'm doing bears? Like I said, I started Nikon, went to Canon, now I'm using Olympus. Reason I use Olympus is because it's light, I can carry it. The other gear was getting very heavy when you start running those large lenses. And I'm carrying 2 bags when I'm getting on a plane and had a hard time getting them in the overhead. So now my Olympus gear all fits in my backpack. It's still heavy, but not as heavy as 2 bags when I had all the Canon gear.
Which Olympus did you shoot?
Sorry.
Which Olympus?
Was the OM1? Is that the one? The newest? Well, not the newest one, but I had the
Mark II, Mark III.
I have the Mark II. Yeah, I've had it for a little while, so, but I like it. It does really good with the tracking and stuff. Again, polar bears, mom and cub, they were just kind of chilling, laying on the beach. I like the interaction with them, and I focus again on their faces, but I like the little paws. Gear requirements, when you're buying gear and you're doing bears, I mean, you're always in extreme weather conditions, so the gear has to be durable. And I know Nikon, Canon, Sony, Olympus, they'll have very good gear for being out in extreme weather. Powerful zooms. I use a lot of zooms just because it's easier. As bears are walking towards me, I have to be able to pull back, or if they're far off, then I got to zoom out. Image stabilization, I hand hold everything. I don't use a tripod. I don't use a monopod. Pretty much limited when I'm getting on planes as to what kind of weight I can carry. So I hand hold all of my stuff. Again, it has to be lightweight, fit my pack, easy to carry when I'm hiking. I don't ask other people to carry my gear. And again, the weight restriction on the small planes. Oops. Up here in Alaska was just playing with the driftwood, kind of bored, but I thought was cute interactions. Here's another, the other guy playing with the driftwood. General settings for doing the bears, fast shutter speed. They're always moving, as you saw them throwing driftwood around. We're always in low light for the most part. This is very rare. You're going to have bears out in the sun. I like to have open apertures where I'm focusing on the eyes. I don't worry if the body is a little bit out of focus. I like the bokeh. My main focus is the face and the eyes. So I'm using tracking on the eyes, and I use a single point. I put that point on a black bear. I will put the point right on the eye where the brown meets the black on the eye. And on a polar bear, you got the black against white. You're looking for the contrast. So I'm putting that point right on that eye to get that sharp image. Low light capabilities. The bears, the coated animals. So they're, like I said, they're not usually out in the sunlight. They're usually in the shade, or they come out when it's raining. They don't, you're not going to see, well, pretty much any animal out in the direct sunlight. It's hot. They're usually out in the early morning, late evenings. They don't usually come out middle of day. Everywhere I've been in the world, pretty much from 10 to 3, you don't see bears. They're usually in the forest laying down, or they're somewhere laying down, they're resting. They do like the extreme weather. If it's raining, windy, cloudy, they're going to be out and about more. So you better be prepared for rain gear for yourself and your camera gear. They're always out when the weather's bad. This one's up in Canada, and it was in October, and he was fishing on the river for salmon. But what I liked was the reflection and then the colors from the fall in the grasses, and then the reflection on the water. This was a female up in the Lake Clark area. She was out in the rain. As you can see, it was real gray and cloudy, but she was looking for the salmon as the tide's coming in for her cubs. Another rainy day, you can tell by the fur on this little cub, and he was out in the river learning how to catch salmon. The female bear his mom was right behind him in the area. These guys, polar bears, windy, cold, and they were out walking around, again, waiting for ice to freeze up. This one was little cub. This was in the Smokies in the early spring, and he was up in a tree, and it was actually full sun. So the sky was blue, it was bright light coming in. So all I did was focus on the bear and did the exposure on the bear, and I didn't care what happened to the rest of it. And then I turned it black and white because it was just pretty much blown out in the background. So you need fast glass, fast autofocus when you're doing bears. Like I said, when they're in the field and they're just eating grass, it's pretty boring. It's like looking out at cows. It's not too exciting. But when the salmon are running and the bears are chasing the salmon in the water, and the tails are flipping and the bears are swinging their heads, you get a lot of action. So I'll put my aperture down at 2.8 at 4, focus on the face, and get that shutter speed. I'm usually shooting at about 2,000 shutter speed to try to make sure I capture that bear movement and get that water splashing. This guy up in Canada, again, fall colors, wet bear. You can see he's got the fish, and you can see a little bit of the water coming off the fish's tail. These guys are wrestling. Again, it was low light conditions, and they're just playing. It was raining, and they're having a good time. While mom was the fishing bear, these are the cubs. They were playing. Here's one of the bears up in Kodiak looking for salmon. You can see the water droplets coming out as the bear pulled it out of the water, shook its head, trying to kill the salmon. 2 polar bear cubs playing and having a good old time in the water, and you can freeze the water as the bears are just swinging their arms around. And that again was a rainy day up in Alaska. Brooks Falls, everybody probably has seen shots like this where the bear just sits there on the falls and waits for the fish to hit him in the nose. So kind of got lucky when the fish jumped out and the bear tried to get him, but he missed him. This guy was in the Smokies. This is in the August time frame. You can see little cherries in the tree, and focused on the bear's face where the brown and the black meet, so I can get my exposure because you can tell it's blue skies and bright light. But he was up there balancing in the trees. Here's the polar bear. When I was saying he's digging in the ice, what they do is they pounce on the ice, and they pounce and they pounce and they pounce and they stick their head in the hole. And this one pulled its head up and then it shook its head. So you kind of see with the fast shutter speed, even though we had a lot of fog and it was terrible light, you could freeze that water and get that bear shaking its head as it came out of the hole. This guy was up in Minnesota. It was just kind of cool how he leaned against a tree, and a lot of bears will do that. They'll scratch their backs on the side of the trees. I liked his little paw in the tree there. This is a male bear climbing a tree and trying to get him as he was looking at me. So primer zoom lenses, like I said, I use zoom lenses just because it gives me more flexibility as bears are coming and going, getting closer to me and get further away. Easier to use for what I'm shooting. Prime are generally faster. And you can get better bokeh on a lot of the prime lenses, but I like the zoom because of the flexibility. Here's an example where I used a zoom lens because these guys were further away, and as they're walking towards me, I had to keep pulling back to make sure they didn't fill the whole frame. This one too was in Alaska and came pretty close, but I was able to use my zoom lens and keep pulling back to get the bear. Exposure, I use manual. I like to set my aperture, shutter speed, and my ISO. I like to make those decisions. If I have to give up one thing, I would probably give up the ISO. I will always set the shutter speed at about 2000. I always have the aperture wide open, and usually I can get pretty low ISO having those settings. Looking for even light. I don't like shooting the bears. If I have bright sunlight, I'll wait and hope for a better day when it's cloudy. It's easier to shoot. So that's kind of when I'm doing that. Some people let their shutter speed vary, but I like a fast shutter speed because it moves pretty fast. This is a little koi. This is the for the year, and he was looking around waiting for mom, but I thought it was cute. He stood up and you could see the necklace fur around his chest there. This is another little koi sitting on the bank. This was in Canada in the fall and waiting for mom to bring a fish. But I just like how it was just sitting there with the environment. And you get the look when the little guy caught the fish. It's like, hey, I got one. But if you get the red salmon, this was done in September in Alaska. And the fish are really, really red at that point. So it's pretty cool. And those are the sockeye salmon. The silvers start running in October. So they're still eating those, but the silvers don't turn red. This was that same little black bear that was up in the tree. And again, everything was blown out, but I did the exposure on the black bear's face. Didn't worry about what happened to the background and turned it to black and white. But that was kind of a cute little guy up there. So I'm looking for an emotional response when I'm shooting this, like cute little guys looking at me or doing something in the trees, playing with their siblings. So that's when I photograph, that's kind of what I'm looking for. People think they have poor eyesight. They do not. They know what's going around. They know what other bears are in the area. Their hearing is very powerful when you're around a river and you see no bears and all of a sudden the salmon are slapping their tails, the bears will come out of the brush. They can smell. We've been sitting on banks, I told you, with lunch. As soon as we bring lunch out, bears come out, lunch goes back in the the backpacks. Brown bears, they do get close to other brown bears. They will push each other out of territories, but they do tolerate each other, especially when the salmon are running. And again, grizzlies are more inland bears. They are more dangerous than the brown bears in a sense that the grizzlies don't have as much food. The brown bears have a lot of salmon. The grizzlies are more like in Glacier or up in the Wyoming area. They don't have a whole lot of salmon to eat, so they're eating more smaller animals and things. So I would recommend if you are in those areas, you stay further away from grizzlies. Brown bears, you can usually get closer because of the amount of food in the area. The black bear, this was in the Smokies, and kind of looking at us, and I just like the look getting as the little guy's trying to eat the tree. Mom and cub. There's actually were two little cubs, kind of see the other one's nose, but she was sleeping and we were hiking through the forest in Cave Cove area, and we kind of startled her. So you kind of get that look when you startle them, and the little guys try to run up the tree. This guy came swimming right by our boat up in Canada, in probably 10 feet from the boat, but he was looking for fish. He wasn't bothering with us. Little guy climbing up the tree. It's the cinnamon black bear. I just like how he's sticking out his tongue. It's kind of unique. This one I called Yoga Bear, was laying on the side in British Columbia. It's a female, and she's just stretching after she ate a lot of salmon, and you can see the salmon kind of down by her head there. And when a bear is real comfortable with you, she'll lay down and nurse. This one laid maybe 15 feet in front of us, and she started nursing her babies, and she laid there for a while, and she was really comfortable. So you get that very often. Again, another mother with a little koi. She was startled. There was another male bear in the area, so the little guy kind of went close to mom, and then she went real close and let him know it's okay. Another bear fishing for the salmon. That's a silver salmon. Here's a tired old bear laying up in the tree. It's actually a cub. Another tired one laying in the tree. I like when they're just laying there. That's a cub slapping mom. He's kind of bored, but you get a little bit of interaction there. Here's a cub cuddling up to mom, so you kind of get that motherly feeling. So it's like, what am I trying to show with my photographs? And I'm trying to show people that bears can be cuddly and lovable. I don't want them to be associated with ferocious animals, even though a lot of people think that's what they are. So we need to just, when you're photographing, figure out what you want to show people, because a lot of them have not ever been around bears, and they see what you might post. So I don't try to post a lot of bears eating dead animals or a lot of blood on their face. I don't even photograph that. As you can see, I'm doing the sow with the nursing, the bears laying in the grasses or laying in trees on riverbanks. So I try to give people the feeling of a tranquil environment and not a ferocious animal that needs to be killed and shot and that kind of thing. Think about that when you're photographing any animal, or, what are you trying to tell people about that animal? So now what I'm doing is, I said, I obviously still do a lot of photography, but I'm trying to take my photography and do digital artwork with it. So this is a little bit of what I'm doing. So I photographed the animal. This guy sat in front of me, and I liked the pose and I liked the eyes. So I'm like, I got to do something with it. So now I'm taking textures and blending stuff in to create artwork, because I've got hundreds and thousands of photographs of bears, and I want to, do something else. So this one, you can see I blended in textures, and it shows them climbing up the log. This one, he was sleeping, and I kind of made it into a dreamy night scene, just kind of real soothing look. This little guy was standing looking up, and then I put the two cardinals in a tree, just kind of called it like friends. Polar bear, wanted to put it with some snow and a little bit snowy grass. This was the two I showed you, the mom and cubs. Put her in some pink and This was designed to go in a baby's room. This was a bear walked towards me, and I'd like the paw coming out of the ground, so I wanted to make it kind of like a statement piece of art. This one is kind of like dreamy. I put some butterflies in there, the little cub just laying there thinking, and kind of like for a bedroom or some kind of soft type environment. This guy was sitting on a log, and I wanted it to have some flowers in there and some grays, and it kind of gives it a majestic look to that bear. So that's kind of what I'm doing with my work. One thing I have going on, I joined up with, I don't know if you guys might know Barry Spruce up in Townsend, Tennessee. Anyway, Barry and I are doing a trip out in the Tetons in November, and we're going to be doing moose and landscape. So if anyone's interested, we've got 3 spots left, and we're going to discount them $250. But we're going to be, the moose are in rut during that time, and you will get some beautiful moose shots. Plus, you'll get some snow in the Tetons. So that's something I'm doing. And then obviously my digital artwork is kind of where I'm progressing with some of my photography. And I still obviously take photographs of bears and any other animals. So any questions or Travis?
Good trick with the macros on getting the exposure run, because for me, as somebody who doesn't photograph wildlife a lot,
Right.
every time I photograph blackbirds, they just I struggle with getting the exposure right on them.
Right.
Texture of fur you got that I can't seem to.
Yeah, well, I do the single point, and I put the point like right on the eye where the brown and the black meet. I'm spot metering right on that point, and I'm setting my exposure for that. And I don't care what happens to the background. All I care about is that bear. Do I have the detail in that bear? And the other thing I do is if the bear is in full sunlight, I'm not even going to photograph them. But if you've got clouds or rain, I'll spend all day photographing.
Are you overexposing by 2/3?
I push the histogram. I always photograph with my histogram. So I push the histogram as far to the right, but I don't push it off right. You don't want to blow it out. But I do move it all the way to the right so that I have all that detail in the bear. And again, if you've got a sunny day, you're going to blow out the background. That's how the black and white photographs, I blew out the background, but the bear is what was important to me. So, but I when I'm looking at my camera, I'm only looking at my histogram. So it has to go to the right. I know some people, when you look at the little image, the JPEG on the screen, people are like, oh, that doesn't look good. And then the histogram's too far to the left. Well, then you lose everything because it's too dark. So you want that histogram to be to the right. So,
For your digital art,
Mhm.
are you using something like Midjourney to create your images, or just
no, the images,
stuff with textures and layers?
yeah, the images, they start with my photograph. So I photograph these are all my animals that are in my art. And then what I did, take it into Photoshop and I use layers. So I got probably 20, 25 different layers of textures in there. And then I use brushes to blend stuff. Thank you. But yeah, I use Photoshop for that. So any other questions?
Some chat.
Chat. All right, I'll let you pull up the chat.
What you say from that before? Danielle says you mentioned that polar bears move on when the water freezes. Where do they go and how far do they travel?
Well, where they go is they go out on the ice, and they'll keep going on the ice until they find seal. So they just keep going. How far? Miles. I don't know how many miles. When you're in the Arctic, they just keep going. So
And Danielle said she loved the presentation. That's what I said. Somebody's heading to Yellowstone and Grand Tetons next week. Do you have any hints to share that you haven't mentioned?
Well, I just guided for DNK in the Yellowstone for 2 weeks. So if you want to send me an email, I can give you some information there. In the Tetons, I've been guiding up there for a couple of years. So depending on what you want to see, so shoot me an email, I guess, because the Tetons, if you want the moose, you're going to be in the Grovant area right now. Different times of the year, they're in different areas. The bears right now are up in the Coulter Bay area. They're getting ready to go hibernate. So send me an email or something, if that didn't answer the questions, I guess.
What kind of boots do you wear for rivers and hiking?
I use waders. I use Orbs waders. So in
Yep.
hiking, I have waterproof hiking boots.
Yes, Judy says she'll email you.
Okay.
Do you ever set up a stand and wait or just hike, hike, hike?
Nope. Hike, look for the food.
All right. Any other questions at home or here in the room? Yes. If you do have any other questions at home, you can always email Mary Jo. She's on Facebook,
Yep.
so you can send her a message that way. Um, but definitely fascinating presentation, great photography.
Oh, well, thank you.
Other than once or twice I've seen a bear in the wild, I've never had a chance to photograph them. It was
If you ever
coming
want
home.
to.
It's coming home from one of our club trips. We were shooting the Milky Way, and I'm driving down the mountain, and there's two cubs walking up the road, and I stopped and I looked at them. Then I started to back up, and then I realized there's two cubs there. There's probably a mama somewhere.
Yeah.
Plus, these are curvy roads, and it's after midnight. I said it's probably not a good idea to
Don't
stop
get
the
out of
car. So I
It's a
went
little
off.
dark. Yeah.
Well worked.
Oh, well, thank you.
Another thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
And as long as this works, this presentation will be on YouTube in a day or two, so you'll be able to watch that
There you
too. All right. All right, so now we will go to our monthly challenge, which is vanishing points. All right, Lisa, are you still there?
I am.
Here she is. She was there.
Okay, can you hear me?
We
Okay.
can
So
hear you.
like Mike said, our theme this month is vanishing points, and we have 2 months of our photo challenge left for the year. I think there might be a little bit of a delay.
Trying to move this bar out of the way. There we go. All right, so our theme this month is vanishing point. You can see all the themes for the rest of the year. Here's the rules. Do people want me to go over the rules, or do you know all the rules already? We all the rules. We're going to skip this page, Lisa.
Yeah, Mike, why don't you go ahead because there's a delay with
All right,
Zoom.
so I'm going to help Lisa. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to show all the images. Then after we show all the images, we're going to play Mike Robertson's video where he critiques them. And at the end of that video, he does show the winners, but he doesn't know who the winners are. So after that, we'll announce who the winners are. Completely blind judging, so he doesn't know who well, the photographers were the ones he picked. So we had, I think, what, 12 images, 12 entries this month. So this was number one. Number two. Number three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8, 9,
Still seeing 6.
10. I'm going faster than Zoom.
There's a real delay. I'm seeing number
We're up to
6.
number 11 in the room.
I'm seeing number 6.
Oh, somebody wants me to go back to 6?
No, that's what I've got on the
Oh,
screen.
okay.
We just
Has it
skipped
caught up?
7, 8, 9.
Oh, maybe it froze.
Yeah, there was a delay here too,
All
all
right,
through
you'll
that
see him
talk.
again in video. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have some ideas that will fix that next year. So just bear with us. Get that? Bear with us. All right. I'm sorry. All right.
Ah,
9, 10. It's the best I can do. At home they're just hearing me. 11 and 12. So that's all the entries. I'm gonna play Mike's video. I think it's about 12 minutes long where he critiques all the images.
We're recommending that a portion of the work is in the way. But I'm very honored to be asked to be the judge for this. Now looking at that. So, vanishing point is hard to sometimes figure out. So I went and got a description. Let's look at this real quick. Vanishing point is a key technique in photography. A strong composition that makes the illusion of depth and guides of your eye. Guiding our eye like leading lines, guiding our eye to the picture. That art of vanishing point is leading lines. That's what you're looking for. It's based on the idea of parallel lines that extend away from the character's background to converge at a single point on the horizon. Okay. Um, we're looking for a converged line. Actually, I think it's more from the foreground, maybe back to the background. But we're looking for those converging lines. Okay, so with that in mind, let's start looking at our energy. By the way, we all did a great job including the absolutely beautiful. Elevated cut from it. But let's go ahead and step through these. The first one, beautiful sunset image. Love to be here, coming from the Eastern Shore, Maryland, where I was born and raised. I love sitting on the water watching the sunsets. This one will have the leading lights converging forward, coming off our ruler curve on the right hand side, pulling you into this image down to the horizon line. Very good job, beautiful image, lovely sun rays in there. Did a really good job on this. Another beautiful sunset. Just absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure where this is. In Savannah or Florida, Georgia or Florida, down in Savannah area, down in Florida. I'm not sure. But still, it's a gorgeous image. I love the tone together. I don't know if that was added, some of that was added post-processing or not, but it gives a very strong sunsetting feel. Here again, we've got the rule of thirds. We're pulling this in from the right-hand side of the top, shot, you think, down to the horizon line. Um, Bridge, another beautiful image here. So this is very strong as far as emerging lines and vanishing points. We don't have just a couple. We've got a lot of conversion lines. So here we've got the side pieces here bringing us in roadway. Then we've got a yellow line. So this is setting us up for that very strong triangle, which is something that we look for with conversion lines. We've got a low point of view, which is unique. Okay, something we don't normally see as we're laying down. So this is a different point of view. These conversion lines from the center in. Great job on that. ratio. The fencing, I've used fencing many times. Of course, most of you know I like a fork stuff. I probably have a couple down here or something, but here we've got the fencing, we've got the wood fencing, all the same, multiple lines coming from again the left side and down to vanishing point when you down here with these converging lines to each way. Very strong, great job on this one. Nice black white. Of course, I love black and white. This is a little unique because we don't have just one, we have two steps of conversion lines to the vanishing point. We've got the one here at the bottom, and here's going here, that is our vanishing point there. And we've got the one up top here, moving in to the top. Great job on the black and white conversion. I think the brass top ball normally I'm coming down the hill. So this looks really good. And it's a little different aspect where we have two sets of lines. This one, actually my one really like this one. We kind of looked at these together. What made this one a little bit different? We have the conversion lines very strong. We've got the fence lines here. And of course, we've got the main road, all conversions back here. But this one, it's not straight. It's she calls it squiggly lines. So it makes it a little bit unique, a little bit different. So great job on that. By the way, this looks like it might be HDR. Great job on the HDR, by the way. It's not overdone, which she so many times. So good job. A beautiful fall image. We're starting to come into this. One of our, part of the power so we love the fall a lot of it still. But this one's at a low viewpoint. We've got lines coming from here, going that's our vantage point back near the image. A nice foreground, middle ground, background, perfect landscape there. Great job. We could have some nice setting up the shot here. Good job, beautiful image. So, real strong compositions for conversion lines, those vantage point. We have the side handrail. We've got the foot here, the decking, all going back to this part here in the back of the image. Very pretty, gorgeous. Looks like an early morning. Again, this would be someplace I like to say the nice cup of coffee, watching this stuff. But we've got a good job of converting lines here. Putting that to our advantage. So. So those ones got lines all over the place. This was a great job subway. Looks like a long stone. We've got the train. We've got all these lines and the train moving us in. We've got the lines, walls, ceilings, all heading us down to the vanishing point down here. This is very soft composition job on this. So what did the North Georgia Time Club and Listen to play? So here's our train shot. Again, we have our sets of lines again. We've got our lines coming in from here on this set of track. Got our lines coming back here on it. On this set, we'll all move back here. That's our vanishing here in the back of the train is. Great job. Nice, beautiful color, crystal clear. Did a really good job on this. Page code. What page code? Right now I've got a 1 page relationship with it. We were there not too long ago to look at theirs. Car broke down, 8 page code. You don't want this to happen. catch me sometime and I'll tell you the long and expensive story of how it happened. But anyhow, this is a very nice image. Very strong composition. Again, we've got not only the fence line, we've got the road coming in, the other fence line, beautiful colors. I guess it's the morning shot, early morning. All conversion back here to our vanishing point at the end. Just a great job. Beautiful image putting all this stuff together. Again, it could be fake, but I'm not sure it is or not. It looks like it. Beautiful side. Then we've got a dirt road bringing us in. Very strong sideline, putting us down to the dash point. Nice coloring. It's a great job putting all this together. But those are all of our images. We only have 5. So now we're going to go to the top 5. Before we do, let's look at our definition one more time. That form is a heap of beef found in a drawn composition creates a illusion of depth to guide the viewer eye. You're looking for parallel lines moving towards a vanishing point on your horizon. Okay? And then draw our eye in. So, 5. And believe me, this one's very hard. We have the late here going up. Again, this was very unique. It's a beautiful image. Again, a good job of you. If it wasn't still not, but a good job of getting nice, clear side. And so the image is nice. We've got very strong lines coming in here. Now, notice it's different. It's not a straight line. It's squiggly. It's not what it's already. I'll bring you back to that sheet and hand it out. Good job on this one. Number 4, page 2. So this one again, it's a beautiful image, beautiful colors, and we've got these very strong lines coming in. Now the image showing we've got the triangle that we look for. Like mentioned earlier, we've got the nice triangle here, very strong vanishing point. Great image. So this is where it started getting really hard. Number 3. Shot at the lake. Okay, this is a very strong image. We've got the side rails here that are pulling us in. We've got the decking that is pulling us in all towards things and towards the back. So we've got a very strong composition painted, but we've also got a beautiful image. I love the fog coming off the water and everything. Great job. Number 2. Great. So this grade really had everything that you could ask for in the image. It's absolutely very strong composition, beautiful image. We've got the side rail, we've got the yellow line, really drawing your eye in. Just a great job showing the vanishing point here at the back. Looks really good. Number 1, go to the subway. I think this is, if you look under vanishing point, I think this picture to be there. It's got all these lines coming in. We've got not only the subway, but all the walls. It's got our vanishing point at the end. It's just right into the image. So again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Congratulations to the winners. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Thank you very much.
So now it's time to reveal the winners' names. All right. The 5th place was Lynn Pedner. 4th place was Sandy Powell. 3rd place was Judy Worthington. I don't know this guy who's in 2nd place. And 1st place was Jason Blaylock. So Jason Blaylock's gonna get a gift card, an Amazon gift card He's got the points. And that is it for tonight. Watch for next month's Dropbox link to be posted on our Facebook page, beginning of October, and on our website. Next month, our meeting's on Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m. here at the Bowen. Our speaker is going to be David Akubian. I don't know what he's going to be talking about yet, but it doesn't matter because it's always great. And our photo challenge theme is going to be tells a story. So that's going to be something we can all be really creative on. That's it. Thanks everybody for coming, and have a good evening. Thanks everybody at home and everybody here. Thank you, Mary Jo, and have a good night. Let's see. Oh, they're telling me all the problems with the video. Have a good evening, everybody.
All right.